You can't grow with hate inside your heart. I think that's one of the more memorable quotes that I know from David Goggins. In this clip, he talks about how he had to relinquish the hate he had for his father in order to grow and to move on into the man that we know him today. This is episode 1212, David Goggins, the Joe Rogan Experience. We're sitting at 17 minutes, 42 seconds. I'm Coach Colin, coolest high performance coach in the world. And if you want the absolute best insights to the podcasts and videos you love, hit that subscribe button. I got my Goggins shirt on. Let's get into it.
And I make a nice comedy skit out of that shit. You know, like the first time they tied me up and threw me, it's called drown proofing.
Yeah.
So I'm negative boring as hell, you know?
Me too.
Oh.
I'm related to that big time.
Yeah, so you're one of the few white boys, man, that are negative boring. You sink like a rock.
like a rock.
And that's hard. So imagine them getting your hands and feet, tying your ass up and throwing you in the fucking water and say swim. It was like throwing a cat in the water with fucking a brick on him. So I was just losing my fucking mind. So it's so many things I had to get over. You know, and I found humor. I found humor in my suffering. I was like, motherfucker, what are you doing out here, Goggins? Like, this is crazy. Like, you're literally trying to reinvent the wheel, but I was trying to reinvent my mind. And I used every single tactic possible to do that. I didn't want to live in this world where I was a fake human being anymore. And I was tired of blaming everybody for where I was at. My dad beat me, this happened. I mean, my dad ran prostitutes, man. My dad literally snatched the soul out of my mom. Like, my mom is still battling. Like, after my mom left my dad, and this is what I'm talking about in the book, she got married 3 times for a total of 6 months. You know, I don't go there. I'm not even going to talk about the guy she married. So this woman she's beautiful. She's so smart, all this stuff, man. This guy literally stripped her soul away. And I was a young kid watching it. And I had no soul to begin with. And my brother, he has a story that he could write 8 books. You know, my dad just came through and just washed us all clean. So to come out.
Is he still around?
He died about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I'm not for sure. I didn't go to the funeral, but I forgave him. So I saw my dad through an 8-year-old's eyes. So we left when I was 8. And then at 22, I went back to see him through a grown man's eyes. And he was the same person I remembered. But I had to. You can't live with hate. You cannot move forward. As much as that guy tried to ruin all of our lives, that's where I came from. I had to figure out the origin of where I started from. So when I was going back through my life trying to fix who I am, the fucked up person I was, like, if your knee hurts, it's usually not your fucking knee that's hurting. It's something else, man. Like, it could be a tight quad. It could be the right leg if it's the left leg. You got to find out the origin of where all this shit began. And it was him. So I had to go back to where, you know, my roots and the origin of all this happened, and it's hard to do that.
Did you make peace with him?
I made big peace with. So we didn't have a peaceful conversation. We left very Garanimal. He's a vicious man. He was a vicious man. I mean, medieval motherfucker. So I had become a medieval motherfucker at that time. I was 22 and I was the big boy, and so I was no longer the guy who was afraid. It was not like, hey, I want to kill you type of shit. And we were sitting at Denny's after an all-night skate or whatever the hell, you know, he owned bars and skating rinks and shit like that. And so we were sitting down and we kind of got into it, and I just kind of left. But I had to make peace with it in myself. I could not hold on to that hate, because holding on to that hate was half the reason why I kept falling into the same pattern of failing. I had to start dumping off some baggage. I had to start figuring out me through him, and that's all he was there for. He was the origin. I had to figure him out, figure out why he was so evil to my mom, to me, my brother. And I had to start studying him. Like, a lot of people have situations where someone does something and we all attack that person, like on the media. If someone does something wrong, everybody now is fucking perfect. And we now judge this guy. I don't judge him. I don't judge anybody. What I do is I start studying them. Why did they do that? Not in a judging way. I want to learn from you.
And what'd you get out of your dad?
I got that he grew up rough. He was very insecure, had a lot of kids, and his insecurities just trickled over onto us. So yeah, he jacked us up real good, but he never fixed himself. So if you never fix yourself, the next person in line is going to get the wrath.
Man, isn't that true? We see that with the with relationships, you know, somebody, this has been me, actually me to my now wife, you know, I get cheated on. Now I bring all my mistrust that I should have for that past person, and I'm bringing it to her, and she didn't deserve it. But yeah, hard stuff, man. Really hard stuff. But it's so true. You can't grow with hate in your heart. And that wasn't the quote that he said, but that's what I took away. So I kind of just used that quote. But like, that's basically what he's saying. He couldn't move on. He kept hitting this pattern of failing because of this hate that he had for his father, this unresolved situation, like not coming to peace with his father and what he did. And I know everybody has different people, but like, you know, towards a father or towards your parent, if you have that type of thing, it's like you have to address it and you have to let it go. And it's like David Goggins is the last person you could look at and say, well, easy for you to say, my dad did X, Y, Z. His dad did everything. Everything terrible that a dad could do to his kids and his family, this guy did to David Goggins, his brother, and his mom. Every single thing. And if he could forgive, if he can make peace with that, so can you. And even more so, from listening to this clip, if you've listened in entirety, you have to, right? I love the analogy that he said. Sometimes, and I'll mess it up what he just said, but sometimes when your quad hurts, or sometimes when your knee hurts, you think it's your knee, but it's actually your quad, or it's actually your hamstring's a little weak, or it's actually your inner thigh doesn't have enough muscle in it. You know, you think it's the knee, but it's actually something else. And how many times, or I should say, where in life could that be happening to you? You feel like you just have XYZ problem, but in actuality, it's something that is unresolved with a parent or a sibling or a friend, or just something that you've gone through in life that you just haven't made peace with. And you're going to keep on going through this pattern of failing or switching jobs, not being able to keep a job, this pattern of drug use. You're going to keep going through it until you deal with that thing that's at the core of it. You have to deal with it. It's back to Jordan Peterson talking about the dragon in the lair. If you're at this point, the dragon's now out of the lair and it's tearing apart the village. And you're sitting there like that meme of that dog sitting in like a house that's on fire saying, this is fine. But in reality, you have to go and deal with that dragon because it's tearing apart the village. The village is your life, So you got to go and deal with it, whatever it is, whatever you have to make peace with, It's not always about hearing somebody say, I'm sorry, with teary eyes and hugging you and saying, oh, I'm so sorry, you can move on now. It's not always going to be like that. If you listen to his story, that's not what he got from his father. He actually got into a fight with his father and then had to leave and still made peace with it. Sometimes you have to make peace, not because they came to you groveling, offering you this peace, but because it's just good for your own heart and your own soul. You won't be able to grow. You won't be able to move forward. Jordan Peterson talks about it. He says that if you have a past memory that's more than 18 months old and you still react when you think of this memory, this situation, then it's not dealt with. It needs to be dealt with. It needs to be confronted. I say it all the time. There's two ways to deal with it. I'm sure there's many ways to deal with it, but from where I sit, there's two ways to deal with it. You can write it down like Jordan Peterson suggests. Write it all down and really work it out and really look at it and examine it and see what happened and really deal with that emotion. Get closure on it. Your mind wants closure. Or you can do what David Goggins did, and he went straight to the source. He went to the source in person and confronted it. And even though it ended in a fight, he still was able to make peace based on him going towards what was holding him back, that fear, that hate, that anger. So pick your poison. Pick what you're going to do. But you have to do it. And if there's even a chance that you end up evolving from there, growing from there into something like Goggins, your version of Goggins, your highest self, it's so worth it. You know, I just made a video just today about Jordan Peterson talking about the things that you should do and the things that you shouldn't do, and the things that you shouldn't do end up becoming way worse than you think they're going to be because they ripple out, and the things that you should do end up being way better than you think they are, and they end up rippling out. So think about how good it could be if you do deal with this fear or this anger, this person, if you do confront them, if you do that thing that you should do, how much growth will come of it, how much that will ripple out, not just for you, but the people around you. And then who knows where that puts you 5-10 years from now. And then on the inverse, if you the thing you shouldn't do, which is cower from that fear, that anger, that person, and you don't do it, where can that put you? It ripples out. It doesn't just stay in the past. It doesn't just stay in your mind. It affects parts of your life way more than you'd ever think. So, yeah, that's all I got to say there. But, yeah, deal with it. Deal with it the best you can. You're going to be scared. You're going to stumble. You're going to shake. You might even sweat. But peace on the other side. And that's what you're going for. You're not going for them groveling. You're not going for that fear to just be banned, but you're looking for that peace. I'm out. Peace.